Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm pumped. I'm this close to monetizing this channel. So if you guys want to keep watching, that would help me out a lot. But we're jumping into Star Wars. I know I've been on Game of Thrones, Warhammer 40K for what seems like years. But yeah, Star Wars is something that I came up in because I don't know if you know how old I am. I'm 35. My mom had me young. My dad had me young. So I was watching Star Wars as soon as I could realize what anything was in the world. So I'm pumped about this. I just decided to drop myself into, I don't know, the Clone Wars. Why the Clone Wars happened, the political crisis, the secret army that nobody knew about, and the Sith Lord kind of puppeteering both sides. It's great. Stay tuned. We're going to go through point by point what it was, what caused it. Enjoy the video. As we all know, before the Clone Wars, the galaxy was ruled by the Galactic Republic, a massive, you can't see it right now, but I'm using air quotes, democratic system that stood for thousands of years. But by the final decades, it was failing because of corruption. So corruption was rampant in the Senate. Corporations like the Trade Federation, for example, held enormous power. Outer Rim systems were neglected and exploited. The Jedi Order that was once used as peacekeepers had become deeply tied with the Republic's politics, limiting their ability to act independently. This growing dissatisfaction set the stage for the Clone Wars. Many systems began to consider leaving the Republic, not purely out of evil intent, but just out of frustration. This movement became the Confederacy of Independent Systems, led by Count Dooku. We all know Count Dooku, not going to go into that. Former Jedi Master, and he's a Count. The Separatists were not purely villains at the start, and many would argue not all Separatists were evil even by the end. Many just genuinely believed they were fighting corruption. However, their leadership was heavily influenced and even controlled by the Sith. The Clone Wars didn't even begin with Palpatine. Well, not really. To understand the true origin of this, you have to go back to Palpatine's master, Darth Plagueis. Plagueis was a Sith Lord obsessed with control over life, death, and the galaxy itself. According to Sith doctrine, the rule of two meant the Sith operated in secrecy for generations, slowly manipulating galactic events from the shadows. Plagueis took he took this further than anyone before him. He began to orchestrate a long-term plan to 1. Destabilize the Republic, 2. Undermine the Jedi, and 3. Position the Sith to take power legally, not through open conquest. So he trained Palpatine not just as a Sith apprentice, but as a political weapon. Together, they infiltrated the highest levels of the Republic. But eventually, as Sith traditions being what they are, Palpatine betrayed and killed Plagueis. And with that, the plan didn't end, it evolved. Palpatine took everything he learned, everything Darth Plagueis built, and pushed it into its final phase, which was ultimately the Clone Wars. With his master gone, Palpatine himself controlled both the Galactic Republic and the Separatist movement. Through his Sith identity, he guided Count Dooku, who became his new apprentice, major corporations like the Trade Federation, and the growing Separatist alliance. At the same time, as Chancellor, he positioned himself as the Republic's only hope. This is the key truth. The Clone Wars was not a conflict between two armies. They were a single plan played from both sides. The creation of the Clone Army now fits into a much longer timeline. Originally commissioned by Sifo-Dyas, the army was meant to prepare for a coming crisis. But after his death, the project fell under Sith control. Dooku, going by Darth Tyrannus, oversaw its development. The army was grown on Kamino because they be cloning. And they used Jango Fett as the template. But most importantly, most crucially, most critically, the clones were modified. Not just to fight, not just to be great soldiers, but to obey. This wasn't an army, this was a ticking time bomb. By the time of Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, everything was already in place. Disillusioned galaxy, a separatist movement ready for war, a republic desperate for protection, and an army waiting and willing to be deployed. The Battle of Geonosis didn't cause the war, it just revealed it. From that moment on, conflict spread across the galaxy exactly as the Sith intended. The Clone Wars were a machine. It wasn't chaos, it was a machine. A machine designed for a purpose. Purpose 1 was to exhaust the Republic. Second, to scatter the Jedi across countless battlefronts. As far as you could get the Jedi, that's where they were sending them. Also, it was to normalize fear and militarization for the Empire to come. And lastly, to justify Palpatine's increasing control, thanks Jar Jar Binks. But every victory strengthened Palpatine's control, slowly closed the stranglehold he had on the Galactic Republic. Every win strengthened him, every loss just justified giving him more power. So no matter who individually won each battle, Palpatine always came out ahead. When the moment was right, the final phase began. Order 66. Hidden within the clones since their creation were inhibitor chips. When activated, they forced total obedience. The Jedi who had fought alongside the clones for years were suddenly marked as enemies. In a single, coordinated moment, the Jedi Order was nearly wiped out. Not by rivals, but by their own soldiers. With the Jedi gone and the galaxy in chaos, Palpatine made his final move. He transformed the Galactic Republic into the Galactic Empire, and the galaxy, just exhausted by war, accepted it. Not as tyranny, but as security. So the Clone Wars didn't begin with a single decision. They began with a vision started by Darth Plagueis and completed by Palpatine. A plan decades in the making, and one that turned fear into power, loyalty into betrayal, and a republic into an empire. And the most terrifying part is it worked. Alright friends, that's the end of the video. I tried to give it an overview. I didn't want to get too stuck in the weeds because we would have been here for hours, and let's be honest, the YouTube algorithm, it don't like that type shit. So yeah, I gave you the brief, what you need to know, the cliff notes, if you will. The cliff notes save everyone some time. But yeah, gonna get into Star Wars. We're still gonna go back and forth with Warhammer 40k, Game of Thrones, basically anything else. I needed to do something new. Game of Thrones was just in my brain and I was tired of it being there. So we're switching to Star Wars. Might jump into Lord of the Rings as well, because again, that's something that's been with me since about the 4th grade. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you liked it, like it. If you didn't, double click the thumbs down, share, subscribe, all that typical YouTuber shit. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Peace.